Yo, so the opinions and views expressed in this podcast are that of our own and the Future Bachelor podcast only, and not affiliated with any outside party or entity or anything like that. This fun podcast, though, may include some adult language.
Future Bachelor Podcast.
So, but yeah, why don't we get into what we like to do around here? It's that time to talk about Bachelorette on our show! Yes, but before we get talking about Bachelorette, YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Smash that thumbs up button and hit that notification bell so you can get notified every time we drop new Bachelorette content just like this. And if you just did, huge shout out to you. Ooh, wee! Air horns for you. Oh, V. Oh my goodness, where do we start this week? Man, we start with previews of the men just stripping. That's just crazy. But you know, that gets into a lot of things that we'll get talking about. Where do you want to start with this week? Where do we begin?
We'll start with it seems like, you know, or at least the girls were fed this line that they were supposed to have a pool party. We start the scene with a rainy mansion, some cracks of thunder. It all felt like obvious foreshadowing B-roll that they toss out there. And they're all like, you know, things are gonna get, you know, messy, thundery, rainy. And so I think they were supposed to have a pool party. And they're like, oh, man, darn this rain. How else are we going to see these men shirtless? And then they're all like, I know what we can do.
I hate that like they assume that they're all going to have six packs. That pisses me off as a man. That's just like, you know, working on my fitness. But God, you know how hard it is to get six pack? You think
a six pack? I mean, like some bodies are just truly not made to have a visible six pack. Like it's just,
you're making me feel better, but
no, it's like actual truth. Unless like, you know, you might be like undernourished.
Well,
but,
it seems like they seem to find a lot of them for this show. But yes, you know, they're in there. We got 29 guys. You know,
and they keep showing how crowded the house looks. Like they're all like there wasn't enough beds for people. They're showing like I don't think we've ever really seen like that full like bunk room that they showed us at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah,
like,
people were like sleeping by like the pool. Like
I know I feel like we just typically don't see this much or like how crowded or like typically I feel like we're not seeing everybody all together. Maybe the rain also helps with that because if it's raining, you can't also have people like sitting in the hot tub or in the pool or like whatever because it's raining. So
but yeah, so we need to see these six pack and how we gonna do it. We're gonna, you know, have a little pageant and the girls bring the guys some gifts, and when they open it up, it ends up being Speedos. And the guys are all just like, oh my gosh, you know, doing all the push-ups and sit-ups.
I know, you could see them all trying to get all their little quick pumps in, and all we see are the black boxes. I feel like this has to be the most black boxes per capita, if you will, per screen time capita, because of they're just all walking around.
Well, they're not really boxes. They're more like rectangles, like, you know, long rectangles.
Yeah, I guess rectangles, because every square is a rectangle, but, you know.
Oh, wow. So, yeah,
geometry.
I mean, this is the segment where I like to talk about, like, because call it Speedo dating. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the girls are like, all right, let's go. And the first one to kind of get up there is Logan, the guy that was holding the two chicks, and now he's got two chicks right in front of him, and he's about to show his things. And you know, he comes out with a lot of confidence. You know, he like apologizes to his family and stuff, but you know, he came out strong and confident, and he did the worm.
The worm.
Yeah.
He said that butterflies come from worms, which is not accurate. It's caterpillars. But I mean, I get where he was trying to go with that.
Something that Gabby said that I thought was funny was that it was going to be stiff competition.
She was hilarious. She's so good.
So yeah, that was good. And, you know, he really set the bar and the tone for the rest of the competition.
Yeah.
You know, we get to see a lot of the guys just kind of, you know, flexing their things, doing funny
dances,
stuff. We have Meatball pouring sauce on himself.
That seemed unnecessary. We had the romance novel looking dude. I think is his name Jason. It's a J name.
Yeah.
he does like he's a mortgage broker, so he like looks all hot and puts his glasses on and he starts talking about fixed mortgages, and I was like,
Yeah,
that's funny.
30-year
I like
fixed,
you.
Yeah, he's good. There was a little overlap happening. Like Johnny, came out wearing a captain's hat, and both girls are like into him. And this is where we start seeing like the problems that the season is kind of like about to set up, that we're going to see happening throughout the show, throughout this episode, but probably, for the next couple episodes until like it seems like they're going to put their foot down. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So, we got Chris, who is turning out to be our first villain of the season. And
he sets the tone with how he comes out first, and he comes out during this pageant. He like makes everybody else do this like pattern to his dribbling, and then I
didn't think it was that bad of a thing if he started
until
rapping.
he talked about being an alpha, and that's what he's good at.
Well,
that was already villain vibes from the second he was all like, yeah, I want to show off what I'm good at, like being an alpha, and I was like, bleh. I was like, get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the beat thing was going. I thought he might just start like doing like a rap or something, but he didn't. And he starts singing some freestyle singing, and
it was bad.
Yeah, it was funny because like afterwards, like the next thing up, it was like his description was like tone deaf.
I loved it. They've been savage with these descriptions, these bottom thirds for these dudes.
Yeah.
This like just they'll quickly change them to like whatever that is, like to whatever just
But you gotta
happened.
catch them quick though, like you know what I'm saying? Because like most of the time you might skip that because you already might know or you don't care about their name.
Well, because I think you usually don't think to see them change it like that on the normal franchise seasons. They always do in Bachelor in Paradise, but I feel like they're usually like not that snappy on these normal franchise shows. But
yeah, well, the girls were like, he was like, "Do you have any questions?" And they're like, "Nope, we don't have anything." So, so yeah, they kind of move on. Did they give? I mean, I guess the prize was to have an after party.
The after party. So they bring to the after party. They bring Avon. I don't know how to say his name. Logan, because obviously he was kind of a big hit. Brandon, Jason, Johnny, who they both liked, and then Colin. Couldn't tell you who some of these other fucks are besides like the Logans. I know who Avon is just because I think he's pretty, and then Johnny because he got decent.
Yeah, it was the top guys, but right off the bat, the girls are excited to have the guys there, and Rachel, they show her first pull aside Jason, and Jason really just one of the first people to be disappointing of this season. Like he just I don't know. What's your take on his honesty to Rachel?
I know I feel like
for the listeners, he essentially says that he felt like he had more of a spark with Gabby.
He's like, yeah, I'm like more here for Gabby. Like I have to give him like a little bit of credit for at least being honest and just kind of cutting to the chase to not lead her on. I like that aspect of it. Do I think he really did it with the most tact? Maybe not. I feel like it's also just, it's hard. It's hard because they show kind of like this, then after that, show pretty much a montage of Rachel having bad connections with most of the other dudes that they picked to come back for both of them. And she's getting really frustrated and feeling like really, because she's, I would say, more of the emotional, like sensitive one of the two. Like she definitely, I mean, when her and Clayton broke up, her big thing was all like, you didn't even try. Like I tried, like this is like blah, blah, blah. Like she's a little bit more of a romantic. Yeah. And so I feel like this little montage shows like how she's getting upset. 'Cause she's like, wait a second, these people are not treating me like the princess, the queen that I am. And then, she's seeing people making out with Gabby. And she's like, what the heck? What do I have to do out here?
Well, she ends up pulling aside Logan, who says some sweet things to her and then kisses her.
Yeah.
So she's fancying to him. But, like, the next scene was him doing
the same shit to Gabby.
Yep. And asks for a kiss there and gets it. So, he's feeling... At this point, I'm thinking this guy's going to get 2 roses at the end of this after party. But,
I know.
But yeah, I mean... they're starting to find out that this is going to be a hard process. They're still doing a great job maintaining, respect for each other and everything. Yeah. So I think that's cool. Rachel ends up picking Logan for the rose. and Gabby ends up picking Johnny for her rose because they had a great connection and they made out and stuff too. And I mean, they had a little discussion about Logan because they both. Gabby didn't tell her that she kissed him too, right?
I mean, not that we saw.
Yeah.
No. She just said like she just heard that, Rachel told her that she kissed her and she's like, oh, okay. And so I think Gabby, even in her little interview was all like, if Rachel's feeling him, she's like, sure, I had a thing, but I'm going to let her have the space to nurture that because she's like, I'm interested in whoever else too.
And I think that's fair because at this point, if you're going to start being greedy with men, it's it's just too many other guys that you can get to know. Right. There's no point on starting to look like you're getting catty over one guy off the first date, so so that doesn't happen. They end up picking separate guys. Back at the house, Jesse's announcing that there's going to be one-on-one dates with each of the girls, and Rachel gets to pick first. So she ends up picking Jordan V, this sweet guy, that... The
drag racer from Alpharetta, Georgia, baby.
Yeah, he could have kissed her in the first episode, but he ended up talking about horsepower and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, Jordan V she has a very, cool first date for...
they take an old car. They go to the zero gravity plane, which I don't know if it might have been the last time they did it was on Nick Viall's season, which is ironic for all the drama happening with Nick Viall. But
we touched on that a little bit last week, but we'll talk about it some more later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, back at the house, this is where we start getting a little bit more of Chris just talking too much and being too confident.
Just talking shit. Just saying stupid shit. Stupid shit that someone who believes they're an alpha can say.
Right. I mean, what was it that he was saying, I guess?
He was talking big game about how he's for when it comes to the fantasy suites, which I know I'll be in, he keeps saying pretty much how he knows he's going to be in the final four. Mm-hmm. And that he's here for, these girls. And when people are even asking oh, well, who are you favoring? And he's all like, I don't know, but I'm here. I'm going to be at the end, which I'm I don't even know how that logistically works out. But okay, pal.
Well, this is the problem with we're noticing a theme with motivational speakers on this show. They're just too confident and they come in here it's a big thing right now. These guys motivating other guys, online and stuff. And just talking about
just a lot of fragile masculinity powering that kind of stuff.
So it's just it's just very funny to see someone trying to utilize that in a room full of other guys that just don't have to do that to stand out. So he's way too confident, and it's rubbing the guys the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so I mean, this is kind of where the villainy starts with him.
Because then he makes the comment of he's well, when it comes to the fantasy suites, if I were to be after other people and they were to have had sexual relationships with those other people before me, then I would have to be out. And then the other guys are kind of questioning, being why are you bringing this up? You don't even know these girls. You don't even know them well enough to pick who you would like better. Right. And also you don't know well enough to make decisions. Not even if you knew them well, you can't make decisions on what they do sexually. And also they were well, wait a second. When would you tell them that this is your deal breaker? And he's well, it depends on the situation. And they're nah, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
That's literally you waiting to use that as a manipulative tool. That's even what Nate is saying. He's all no, what you're trying to do is control how they feel and make them feel like they feel bad. That's manipulative. That's not a vibe.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of it's not as similar, but last season with Clayton and Susie and stuff. Susie kind of busted it out after he had already done the deeds and stuff. So it's it's interesting. I don't think there's a right time to ever do that. I just think if you're gonna be on the show, you're signing up for what it is, and you can't really. I mean, you can feel a way about it, but it's just kind of it's I don't know. It's a weird taboo with this show.
Right. And I think suites. To compare it to Susie and Clayton, obviously, there was some issues there, but I also think, that got to a point because he had told her that, you know, he loved her and whatever. But then I think that's like completely different, because it's different in the sense of like how they thought their relationships were, where this guy doesn't even know what relationship he has.
I only
yet.
bring it up because like I feel like Clayton was trying to say that, though. He was like, you should have said this to me earlier, so I didn't, you know. So, but moving on, you know, back on the date, Jordan, you know, is they're having dinner, and you know, things seem to have been going good until, you know, dinner hit, and he started talking about, you know, his personal life, about how his parents divorced and how I think he was raising his sister and stuff like that. And, you know, as this is happening, it's not intriguing Rachel at all. Like,
you could tell Rachel is having a hard time. You could tell Rachel is out here fighting for her life, trying to find some sort of chemistry, because I could see the wheels turning in her head, being all like, this guy is great on paper. We make sense for each other. We understand each other's passions. Like, they brought that up multiple times. Like, you know, they have similar passions with their careers, with how it's like an adrenaline, like, you know, that kind of career, and that they wouldn't, like, you know, step on each other's toes in that way or like whatever. But you could tell she's just like, I'm not vibing. This dude, there's something off.
Yeah,
she's having a hard time.
It's like going on a first date, like off of like a dating app or something, and you're just like, you know, they're good and they're good, you know, but it's not like you already kind of know, like, this is not going to be a forever thing, you know, or like at least like an official thing, you know. It's like, once we go past this date, I'm probably not going to like want to do another one, you know. So I kind of get that, but this has got to be like one of the earliest like one-on-one dates not getting a rose sent home. And we should have known, because they kind of like foreshadowed it earlier by showing him putting his bag down. Like, I thought that was kind of weird. Like, before the date, you don't really ever see that.
Yeah, because you don't really see that this early in the season. You're right. I feel like we usually don't like.
That's like really something I see on the challenge or something. Like right before they go into an elimination, they like bring their bags down and stuff.
Sure, it's part of like, it does happen for every one-on-one, but yeah, I feel like we don't make note of it until we're farther along in a season.
Yeah, or like, you know, we don't see them bringing their bag down. We usually see it going off, like, you know.
Right.
So yeah, and then, you know, as she leaves him sitting there for like what feels like an eternity.
I know, probably felt like an eternity for him too, because it's not like a regular first date in the real world where you could just pull out your phone and play on your phone while they're at the bathroom or whatever.
Yeah, and also like, you know, what's going through her head is like, damn, this is my first date and I'm sending someone home. What kind of message is it sent? What do I say to him? And we also have, you know, Ashley Cook and Brett Young ready to go, like, you know, to perform for us. Right.
So, in this awesome like theater in LA, like, come on.
Yeah. So what their producers say is like, just go in there and just be honest and say you're not feeling it, and we'll just have them perform for nobody.
I mean, because you could tell that she had to name drop them, and then they had to get their screen time of them performing.
Yep. They got their money's worth, and so yeah, I mean, she sends Jordan V home, and the producer comes back into the house, slamming the door. Like, I've never seen anything like that. He comes, I know,
like, bam!
He was like, I'm here. So we need your dramatic reactions. Minds. We need your dramatic reactions to this bag leaving right now. So yeah, we see the performance go down anyways. And, yeah, and now we're going into the next date with Gabby, where Nate gets picked, and he felt like, and he was in shock because he really didn't think he'd be like the first one-on-one date. Which, you know, I like Nate a lot. He's actually like, at this point, like, he's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's already stood up for the girls against Chris. He's just got good vibes. Yeah. I enjoy him.
I do too. I mean, he's talking about having a daughter, and obviously this is going to be something he's going to have to bring up to Gabby at some point during the date. When he arrives, he comes in with the energy. You know, he's very excited about this date, and then you got Rachel there third wheeling for a second. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, you know,
I could tell. Like, I think. I don't know if they purposely did that, like, as a production thing, to be all like, hey, like, you know, let's almost like, part of me is like, evil way is that they did it as a production thing to be all like. They wanted
to show like Rachel like being like envious or like sad about like Gabby going off.
Part of it's like, or did Gabby want this because Gabby knew that, like, you know, whatever time that Rachel had on her date and she sent whoever home, did she maybe want to get like a little bit of Rachel sussing out her connection with Nate? That's like the nice way to think about it.
Yeah,
but I'm sure
I think it actually was a good move for Gabby and Nate in general, just because it broke the tension of like. Have you ever gone on like to someone's place for the first time, like as a first date, and it's just kind of like
no,
all right.
because I'm a woman and I don't do that.
Yeah,
because
well,
it's unsafe.
it's awkward. Like it is an awkward thing because
Yeah.
you're like, what do we do now? Like, you know what I'm saying? So,
but their place isn't just any place because it has a helicopter pad.
it has a helipad, so
kicked off
it's
by
a hell of a pad with a helipad. So, I mean, it was pretty cool. Like they off the bat, like got their kiss out the way with the view there and stuff. So I was like right away
We've
they're
got helicopter count number 1 for this season. We'll
Yes.
see how many we tally
And
up.
as they fly off, Rachel's just like, damn, what the hell? And they seem to have a genuine connection. And when they obviously do the flyby of the guy's mansion and they wave to them and show them how great they're doing. And they get back to have like their random hot tub date.
As always.
Yeah.
They got 2 standbys in Bachelor lore, if you will, with the helicopter and a hot
They
tub.
really ripped that Band-Aid off.
The
this
2
one.
H's.
So the 2 H's, helicopters and hot tubs. That's the next mixtape album name. So we get into the dinner portion of the date, and it's going great. They obviously have like good goofy banter with each other and everything. But he obviously starts telling her about
Having a daughter.
about the daughter, and I thought she'd be like, so tell me what she's like. I like what he said. He's like, she's the human form of coffee.
I thought that was so cute.
Yeah. So obviously you can tell that he loves his daughter, and that's a huge part of his life. And we get a little bit of commentary from Gabby, to the camera. What do they call it? Like an interview or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's talking about like, I'm not going to. It's not like something that I'm willing to really think about at this moment. Like I'm loving our connection, but she thinks about being a mom one day, and if like
Right.
she's ready for it and all that. So yeah, I mean, that's something I guess they'll have to face in the future if the connection continues, which hopefully it will.
Yeah.
So he ends up getting the rose, and the guys are just kind of like back at the house, or talking about them having to wait for these guys to come back and the differences and how long their dates are going and stuff. So just kind of the guys are starting to rattle in there. We get to the cocktail party, right?
Right.
And this is where we get Mario, who got the first impression rose last week from Gabby. He decides to get to know Rachel a little bit more, which seems to
Right.
go really well.
Went really well. And honestly, after seeing at the beginning of, this week or this episode of Rachel getting just really kind of turned down at the little after party, Rachel's getting some redemption at this cocktail party. She's getting some good time with Mario, with some of the other dudes. There's so many J names, I can't keep them straight right now until they start having more than 2 seconds of FaceTime. But she definitely is feeling much better about these dudes pursuing her during this cocktail party, and
For
Mario
now.
really kicked it. Yeah, for now, Mario really did kick it off.
Yeah.
So
And while they're having such a good time, she's laughing. He's picking her up and everything. You see Gabby side.
you see Gabby peering over from.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to think about that, but the guys are doing good. It seems like producers are like, guys, get in there and really, have some fun with these girls and stuff. The guys start talking about Chris, the
Right.
villain.
Quincy / Prince, Hayden, and who else? I forget who else was
Man,
over
that
there.
sounds like, a great team right there of music producers. But
Really, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, so they start talking about should we bring this up to the girls about Chris talking about fantasy suites and stuff, and they decide they're going to. So they tell Rachel I think talks to Gabby or whatever, and they go and confront Chris about it. Chris is very condescending.
So condescending. He was just sitting there sputtering, trying to come back at whatever they're saying and trying to twist what they're saying. And I'm like, bro, you've already lost. And I thought both of them handled it pretty well. They both were pretty much being like, why are you talking? Gabby comes in first being like, so why are you talking about the fantasy suites already, my dude?
Yeah, I mean, he just kind of keeps talking in circles and just trying to, I don't know, talk down.
He
to him
talks
about
enough in circles for the when they then kick him out, he decides to circle back and come back in.
Yeah, I mean, the girls are like still complimenting each other on how they handled it when he comes storming back
He
in.
literally does like a quick walk. He like, because they even like walk him out, and he's like, "So am I supposed to keep walking this way?" And they're like, "Yeah, dude. Like, fuck off." Like,
Yeah, I mean, this is where it's kind of like a little sketchy for me too, because like I feel like producers or security shouldn't allow that type of stuff to happen.
right?
Once they're
How
off
is
the
he allowed back in?
Yeah, he could like hurt somebody, and he's calling out people like, "Can I talk to you? You?" It's
Yeah,
not
he's like pulling people aside to the point, and then I think it was interesting how they shot then the girls like coming back in through all the cameras, through all these dudes. Like we almost got like an, breaking the fourth wall situation.
I did see that. Like a behind the scenes kind of look at it, but I mean, it was just because they were probably like, it just happened so fast they couldn't get the right angles for it. They're like turning the cameras and stuff, but yeah, they pretty much kick him out again, and he's out of here. Like, the guys stand up and they're like, "Oh, they said they'll already leave. Well, I've heard enough." Like, so I like that about Nate. Was really the one that stood up and did all that. So
Nate's making a good name for himself.
So we get to the rose ceremony. Already we got 2 guys that have gone home, and they end up sending 6 more guys home.
Right.
So a total of 8 guys went home this week. So they really chopped down like almost like a lot of these guys to get down.
Yeah.
to
So now we're at like I think only like 20 or 21 dudes.
Yeah. It should be like 21 dudes. So yeah, I mean, that's where and Mario really got the last rose.
He got the last rose.
I
was
know what that
surprised.
means.
Boston Ryan got a lot of screen time for the rose ceremony, which, usually means you're going home. But he got a decent amount of screen time first episode with Gabby, but then all of his screen time during the, intermission parts of the rose ceremony was him saying how he really wanted a rose from Rachel. Rachel was his dream girl. And I'm like, where does this come from? Where was whatever? But he got sent home, and it felt like I don't know if he got sent home because he looks too much like Jesse, looks too much like Clayton, or why he got such a big edit like that. Like if he's not going to
it could have been something on the Speedo date. It could have been the fact that he did switch it up. Like, switching up, like if you have such a vibe with one and then you go to the other and the other one doesn't have a real good vibe with you, that's going to that's like a double negative. That's going to make it so it's like, I'm not feeling him, but he seemed like he was feeling me. And it's like, well, I had a vibe with him last week. I don't know why he's like, you can have him. It's like, I don't want him. All right, well then send him home, so that's kind of where that kind of falls. So yeah, I mean, no one really surprised me about who went home this week. It was mostly people that didn't get chances because, that whole Chris drama happened where, again, guys didn't get to talk to her, and there's just too many guys. They were like, and not enough beds. So they had to send some home.
They're like, we got to get some of you guys out of here. It's too much.
Yeah. That's pretty much where this episode wraps. Looking into next week, it looks like it's really not working. Like, this whole 2 bachelorettes and having the guys kind of be picking because.
Which was my fear, which was what I was worried about.
Yeah. I mean, what would be the solution to this problem? Besides, not having 2 bachelorettes.
I think it would be it would have already been I don't know, maybe more separated pools of dudes, or I'm just trying to think so when I watched Joe Millionaire for Richer or for Poorer, they did have a combination of a combined pool of girls for both dudes, but it did come down where they did have to they would go on separate dates or whatever, and then they would kind of have to, the guys would have to make their decisions on who they individually kind of wanted and then work it out. I don't know. There's not going to be an easy way.
I mean, I think where it lies. I mean, the only problem with having the guys just picking the girls is the number. It's is it going to be outweighed? More people are going to go towards Gabby and less people to Rachel, and that's going to make them look bad. But what they did wrong with the Caitlin Bristow and I forget her name because they ended up eliminating her too, which was I thought
Britt.
the unfair part about that. It's like they
Yeah,
eliminated
Britt.
one
It
of
was
the
Britt and
bachelorettes.
Caitlyn.
So yeah, I mean, I think they definitely should be picking, but at this point, it looked like the girls were giving out roses separately at the next rose ceremony.
Yeah,
So-
I think they start giving out. I think, that's what I mean. I think it needs to be the girls start kind of figuring out who they like more. Sure, the guys can figure out if they're if they're interested in both for different reasons. That's on them to figure that out too. But I think, it needs to be led more by the two bachelorettes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It really made next week's episode seem very interesting to me, to say the least. But yeah, anything else that you got out of next week's preview?
No, not really. I mean, it looks like mostly people are going to be turning Rachel down, and it looks like Gabby gets turned down one time. So I
Also,
don't know.
looks like she has some shitty dates.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why they had a lot of intriguing stuff for next week that I'm looking forward to. And then we get the post-credit scene of them having a double date with Meatball. And, he's like, it's like having dinner with the president, and made him do the whole Lady and the Tramp spaghetti scene.
Yeah, and he got upset that they didn't kiss. And I'm like, you're a dirty, dirty dog.
Dirty meatball. So yeah, I mean, it was a good episode. I felt like I was pretty.
I know. I'm happy to be back. And as we all know, it's better to get back into the role of these group dates, one-on-one dates, whatever, because then we're actually understanding who these people are. Because.
And I love seeing a villain emerge. The only thing I love about a villain emerging is them being able to make it a bunch of weeks, because it's just fun to see them just really villainy for a couple episodes.
I'm happy that Chris got knocked out. I think
he
there's
deserves to go, but I'm just saying for the entertainment value, it's nice when they make it a week or two.
A decent amount of potential for some of these other dudes to show their villain card. Logan's on his way, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because of just how it's.
operating.
I think the villain card's going to be easily played by many dudes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a scenario for villainy this season. So, well, what do we have for Bachelor Nation news this week?
Yeah, so there's been all this hullabaloo that's encompassing with Katie Thurston, Nick Viall, and now it's got Balake, as well as all the hosts of the Clickbait podcast, which are Grocery Store Joe, Tia, and Natasha. And it's just they decided to do, because the nature of their podcast, they reported on this whole Katie Thurston and Nick Viall stuff, which was more this drama where Katie Thurston did her whole let me spill some tea on her Instagram stories and then on her lives and whatever. And she said something about how she has Nick Viall's number blocked, and then that kind of just spun into this whole thing of how she doesn't really think of Nick Viall because he's irrelevant, and he's all whatever, this or that. Why are you showing our text conversation? Why are you showing this? Which then pulled into the whole Balake with his stuff from
Bachelor in
whatchamacallit, Stagecoach.
Oh, Stagecoach. But so I'm just gonna kind of sum it up, because I feel I'm still kind of on Katie and Balake's side on this one. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Nick Viall, but it just seems like because they're, and also Clickbait, it seems like they're kind of siding with Nick on this.
They're siding, more of them are friends with Nick, and they're siding with Nick, but I don't like how they sided with Nick baseless. They didn't know what they were talking about. They did a really shitty podcast and pretty much just were hurling insults at Katie and stuff, and I just was that's not how this works.
Yeah, I mean, we have to go back to, it's a while ago now, but we have to go back to when Blake was on the beaches of Bachelor in Paradise, and this is the height of the Me Too movement, and essentially they were trying, it was almost production of the show was framing Kaylin, because they were she was supposed to be a bachelorette or something. Maybe they were framing her to have been some type of something happened at Stagecoach where like he was like manipulating her like sexually or something like that, where he was forced to like show text messages of him straight up being like, don't come to my room. And she's like, I'm coming. And it's like, all right, well, we're just going to cuddle, not have sex. And she's like, yes, sex, and all this stuff that came out. So it's like, you know, that happened. And that was, he was forced into a corner of being like, he was, you know, he wouldn't be the Balake that we know today, DJ doing all these things and on other shows, if he didn't defend himself, I feel like.
I think you could have done it differently.
How would you have done it differently? Like,
I just don't think it should have even gotten to that far, and I don't think it should have been used. I mean, I think the whole Stagecoach bit shouldn't have even been such a like storyline on Bachelor in Paradise. I think there's a lot that was messy.
That's outside of his control. That's what I'm trying to say, is that like it was like the show's production that was kind of forcing him to have to put out what evidence he had of like, this wasn't me like doing anything. Like the framework of what they're trying to say on Bachelor in Paradise and what Kaylin's trying to say about this.
I mean, like, but also some of it, he could have let her on in some instances, but not saying that exact. I mean, I think they had.
It takes two to tango, though.
I
they're
agree,
grown adults.
But I think
like,
they had a vibe, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if you go out to a bar and you like have a bunch of people out there and you guys decide to go home and do whatever, like that's grown people doing stuff. Like, you know, that's all I'm trying to say. And it sounds like Nick Viall has no he's like kind of, you know, has no basis for his argument and his hate for Balake. You know, he even gives credit to Clayton and all this stuff, and it's like, dude, like you're kind of looking stupid. Like I feel like a lot of like us as viewers, most people in comments and all this stuff are siding against Nick and clickbait and all this stuff, because it's like y'all got good edits on the show. That's why you.
Well, yeah, I mean, Nick never got a good edit until he was the Bachelor, but
exactly. But I mean, it was his whole story arc. Like he claims that like Balake got Ben Higgins edit in his episode of The Bachelorette when he was on, or his season of The Bachelorette when he was on it, and it's like, yeah, maybe, and so, you know, he's calling him an F-boy, and like, you know, an F-boy, you know, it's being thrown around a lot, very loosely these days, which it's fun to say F-boy and all this stuff, but what an F-boy really does is like manipulates people into having sex, like not just a grown man going out and having sex with people that are, you know, willing to have sex with them. Like, you know, it's just not what an actual F-boy is, you know? So that's what the situation's at these days. I don't know. I think Balake did respond, right before the show. I was like kind of seeing, the Bachelorette, posting some stuff about his response, but essentially saying that like it was Dean that reached out to him about wanting to like squash it on a podcast and stuff. But by that time, Balake was like, I don't really trust you guys. So the only thing I have at this point is to release text messages showing that I wasn't the one here instigating this situation at Stagecoach. So that's kind of what I got from the whole situation. I'm sure it'll go on. I don't know. It's not a good look for the people that are involved with Bachelor Nation, like Clickbait Podcast and Nick Viall and stuff. But they're just like the popular kids in Bachelor Nation. So, it's interesting.
I mean, Clickbait's on their payroll. So
yeah, exactly. So, do we have any other Bachelor Nation stuff?
Yeah, Jed Wyatt got engaged to his girlfriend Ellen Decker. Whoopi. And then also Becca Kufrin and Thomas bought a house together in San Diego, I believe. San Diego is like the big place for a lot of these either current or former stars of The Bachelor. So
I mean, it's beautiful out there.
It is beautiful. I do love.
Though.
Yeah, it gets toasty.
So yeah,
dry heat,
anything else? That's about it.
That's about it for Bachelor Nation stuff.
Yeah, I mean, guys, let us know how you think week 2 went with the guys. Do you think, are you on side of Nick Viall or are you on Balake's side? I don't know if that's like a thing, but you know, let us know what you guys think about all these situations in the comments below. And that's what we got for Bachelor Nation News this week.
Future Bachelor Podcast.